Hello and welcome to Sit Down with the Chief. We're here with editor Richard Steier, who's going to discuss the candidacy of Cynthia Nixon, the actress and activist, and the potential pitfalls it holds for Governor Cuomo, her opponent, even if, as expected, he defeats her in the primary.
Well, on the surface, it would seem as if she is really up against it. You've got an incumbent governor, always difficult to defeat when they've gone through 2 terms and have a $30 million war chest at their disposal. She has not only no government experience, she has no executive experience. She benefits from the fact that she is already fairly well known through her time at Sex and the City, and also that she's running in an era of Me Too, in which women candidates have become increasingly active in politics, and she's going to get a certain amount of leverage from that. The potential problems that she faces, she's running to the left of the governor. People think that he's vulnerable there, that he could face criticism for some of the positions that he's taken in the past and a couple that he's taken in the present, even as he tries to describe himself as the real down-to-earth progressive who gets things done, contrasting him with one of Ms. Nixon's big supporters, Mayor de Blasio. But institutionally, he is going to have the support of virtually every important union in New York State, and that ranges from the police and fire unions to the larger civilian employee unions, most likely the United Federation of Teachers, and almost certainly District Council 37, Local 1199, and the Building Service Workers Union 32BJ, all of which like him because of his emphasis on the increase in the minimum wage to $15 an hour. The people who they represent are a big part of the Democratic base. They also represent a big part of the potential minority vote in this race, and it's going to be somewhat easy for him to attempt to brand her as a candidate of basically the upscale left, the basic, if not the 1%, then the 10%, as opposed to him being the champion of the real people. Nonetheless, he's vulnerable on a number of issues that have nothing to do with the ideological differences between them. One of them is the recent conviction of Joe Percoco. Now, there are people who say that if the Percoco conviction for corruption had come in September or October, it would be a lot more potent issue than coming in March. On the other hand, you tie together the Percoco situation with that of 2 former allies of the governor in terms of running the state, Dean Skelos, the Senate Majority Leader, and Sheldon Silver, the former Assembly Speaker, both of whom were convicted but had their convictions overturned because of a Supreme Court ruling. And it could be more of a problem, particularly because both those men are scheduled to go on trial over the next few months. And so the question of corruption in Albany is going to be a very live one, getting close to the September primary. And it also presents a contrast in terms of the governor's rhetoric when he first ran and won in a landslide in 2010, that he was going to clean up Albany, that he was basically, to use a phrase popularized by Donald Trump, drain the swamp, get rid of the corruption, and make the state work for the people as opposed to special interests. He has done very little in terms of that. The status quo has pretty much prevailed. It's simply that he has greater control over the mechanisms of government that have allowed that status quo to continue. Whether Ms. Nixon can go with the give and take in a debate, whether it's head-to-head or whether it's on the airwaves, remains to be seen. It's one thing to be an activist speaking at rallies where nobody is looking to take shots at you. That it's very well known that Mr. Cuomo is an aggressive campaigner and that his campaign staff will be going at her in any way possible. But one of the things that he has to worry about, even if he defeats her, as it would seem he's most likely to do, she could soften him up for a race in November against a Republican opponent. Mark Molinaro, the Dutchess County executive, this morning sent out an email to his constituents talking about how wonderful it is that the race is now going Hollywood, making the argument that because of this, the national media is going to be focusing on the contest And as a result of that, it's going to put a spotlight on all the places where the governor has fallen short. And obviously, and not surprisingly, he singled out the Per Coco situation, and what he said is this overall corruption that pervades Albany. So that from that point of view, the fact that the governor is not getting a free ride through the summer months because he's got only token opposition only figures to benefit whoever emerges as his Republican primary opponent. Still figures to be tough to beat given the incumbency, given the Democratic advantage in registration, but things got a lot more interesting because Ms. Nixon threw her hat into the ring.
Thank you, Richard Steier, and thank you for watching Sit Down with the Chief.